Salam, peace be upon you. My name is Mohammed Layiq Sediqi, the father of Holophase. Part 26. Hierarchical parse trees, reading reality as nested phrases. Remember the language we are learning. There is one field, phi, the holophase, one continuous cyclic movement from which all of reality unfolds. When phi begins to change, its first derivatives appear, and with them, the three dimensions show themselves at once. Time as omega, space as k, and motion as v, built from both. Every higher derivative is a finer question about how phi changes, and each one casts three shadows together: a time shadow, a space shadow, and a motion shadow. These echoes mix and weave into one another, forming the patterns we call fields, particles, bodies, thoughts, and worlds. In this picture, everything that exists is a living tapestry of phi, endlessly echoing through its derivatives and their dimensional shadows. Today, we listen to just one of those echoes. You are standing at the summit of Book 9.6, Hierarchical Generation, in Episode 9, The Generative Grammar. Our ascent through this book has been a climb up the scale ladder of reality. We began by seeing how descriptions change with magnification. We witnessed the birth of new, emergent laws from collective behavior. We mastered the systematic procedure of renormalization, the universe's editorial algorithm for simplifying its rulebook as we zoom out. We now possess a powerful toolkit for moving between scales. But a final synthesizing question remains. How do we hold the entire multi-layered structure of reality in our mind at once? How do we read a complex system, a living cell, a storm cloud, a city, a galaxy, not as a blur or a list of parts, but as a coherent, nested grammatical structure where every level has its own meaning and all levels interlock? Today, in Part 26, Hierarchical Parse Trees, Reading Reality as Nested Phrases, we reach for this unified view. We learn to see any complex phi configuration as a hierarchical parse tree. This is not just a metaphor. It is a precise way of decomposing and understanding the patterns of the holophase field across all scales simultaneously. Our anchor image is a majestic ancient oak tree. Picture it. At the top, the crown, a single sprawling shape against the sky. Follow a major branch down. It divides into smaller branches, then into twigs, and finally, at the very tips, into individual leaves. Each leaf is a complete functional unit. Each twig organizes a cluster of leaves. Each major branch organizes many twigs. And the trunk and crown unite all branches into one living whole. This tree is a parse tree of the oak structure. The leaves are the fundamental words. The twigs are phrases. The branches are clauses. The whole tree is the sentence. You cannot understand the sentence by looking only at the leaves, nor by ignoring them and looking only at the crown. You need the entire nested hierarchy. Today, we learn to see the universe. Every storm, every organism, every social network is such a tree. The leaves are local phi fluctuations. The twigs are coherent structures like vortices or chemical bonds. The branches are organs or weather systems. The trunk is the global configuration. And the grammar that binds them is the holophase language itself. Here is the synthesizing puzzle of this part. We have a fantastically complex phi pattern filling space and time, the data of reality. We have tools to analyze it at different scales. But how do we extract from this buzzing confusion a clear hierarchical organization that reveals which parts belong together, which structures are subordinate to others, and how influence and information flow through the system? Is there a natural grammatical way to parse the phi field into a tree of meaningful substructures? The answer is a resounding yes, and it brings together everything we've learned in this book. A hierarchical parse tree is a multi-scale decomposition of a phi configuration. Let's build the concept step by step for our ears. Imagine we have a snapshot of the phi field in some region, say the atmospheric pressure and wind velocity over a continent. This is our sentence. It's a massive, continuous dataset. Step 1. Identify the leaves. We start at the finest scale we care about. The leaves of our tree are local features in the phi field. These could be points of extreme value, high or low pressure centers, sharp gradients, fronts, or simple wavelet coefficients, small localized wave packets that form the building blocks. In linguistics, these are the individual words or even phonemes. Step 2. Group leaves into twigs. We don't just have a random scatter of leaves. Phi's dynamics create coherence. Leaves that are strongly correlated, that move together, that are part of the same smooth structure, naturally belong to a group. A local low-pressure center, a leaf, and the swirling winds around it, other leaves, form a coherent structure, a cyclone. This cyclone is a twig or a phrase. The rules for grouping come from the phi grammar itself. Things are grouped if they are connected by strong interactions, or if they together minimize some energy cost, a measure of internal coordination versus disorder. Step 3. Group twigs into branches. Cyclones don't exist in isolation. They are steered by larger-scale pressure systems, the jet stream, continental high-pressure zones. These larger systems are the branches or clauses. They organize the motion of many cyclones and anticyclones. A branch is defined by correlations and interactions at a coarser scale. It is an effective entity in its own right, described by its own coarse-grained variables, like the average pressure gradient across 1,000 kilometers. Step 4. Assemble branches into the trunk and crown. The final level is the global pattern, the entire weather system over the continent. This is the root of the tree, the complete sentence. The hierarchical parse tree is this entire nested diagram, from the global pattern down to the local gust of wind. The power of this view is that the tree encodes causal and informational flow. Interactions and constraints predominantly travel along the branches of the tree. A change in the jet stream, a branch, affects all the weather systems, twigs, beneath it. A local gust, a leaf, has little direct effect on a distant continent, but its influence propagates up its twig to the cyclone, then up its branch to the larger pressure system, and from there might eventually influence other branches. The tree structure tells us how to modularize understanding. You can analyze a branch somewhat independently, knowing that its internal details are sealed off from other branches except through their higher level connection. This is where renormalization meets structure. The process of moving up the tree, from leaves to twigs to branches, is exactly a spatially adaptive coarse graining. It's not a uniform averaging over space. It's an averaging that respects the natural coherent structures. The effective theory at the branch level is the renormalized grammar for that subsystem. Let's explore the tri-unity of hierarchical parse trees, the time echo of parse trees, multi-time scale dynamics. A parse tree organizes not just space, but time. The leaves often represent fast, high-frequency dynamics, rapid flutters, quick collisions. The twigs represent intermediate rhythms, the life cycle of a storm, lasting days. The branches represent slow oscillations, seasonal patterns, climate oscillations over years. The trunk represents the secular trend. The time echo is this nesting of rhythms. The tree shows how fast processes are integrated to drive slower ones, and how slow processes provide the stable stage upon which faster ones play out. You can hear this in music. Individual notes, leaves, form a melody, a twig. Melodies form a movement, a branch. Movements form a symphony, the trunk. The space echo of parse trees, nested domains of influence. In space, the tree defines a hierarchy of containment and correlation. A leaf exists within a twig's domain, which exists within a branch's domain. The space echo is this matryoshka doll of spatial regions. The correlation length, the distance over which phi values are similar, is short within a leaf, longer within a twig, and longest within the branch or trunk. The parse tree maps the geometry of influence. The motion echo of parse trees, constrained propagation. Motion and signal propagation are channeled by the tree. Disturbances travel easily along a branch or twig within a coherent structure, but have difficulty crossing between branches, except at higher connecting nodes. The motion echo is this tree-guided flow. Think of traffic, cars, leaves on a street, a twig, flow together. Streets feed into an arterial road, a branch. Arterials connect at interchanges, branch nodes. The tree structure of the road network dictates the possible motion. Now, let's locate this culminating insight on the master tree. This is the crown of the hierarchical generation trunk within Episode 9. The node of hierarchical parse trees depends on every concept below it in Book 9.6, scale-dependent view, emergent laws, and renormalization. It enables the transition to the next profound book, Book 9.7, self-reference and closure. For if we can parse the world into a tree of phi structures, then a substructure within that tree, a complex branch like a brain, can develop a model of the tree itself. This is self-reference. The parse tree is the bridge between the universe's generative grammar and its capacity to know itself. To ground this abstract tree in tangible reality, let's scatter lanterns from across domains. A near lantern from human organization, a company's structure. Consider a large corporation. The parse tree is its organizational chart. The leaves are individual employees. Employees are grouped into teams, twigs. Teams are grouped into departments, branches. Departments are grouped into divisions, larger branches, all under the CEO and board, the trunk. Communication and authority flow primarily along these tree lines. A marketing employee, leaf, interacts constantly with their marketing team, twig, occasionally with their sales department, branch, but rarely directly with a manufacturing employee in a different division, a leaf on a distant branch. The company's function, its global pattern, emerges from this nested hierarchy of roles and communications. This isn't just an analogy. It's a real hierarchical parse tree of social phi patterns. A middle lantern from biology. The physiology of an animal. Your body is a hierarchical parse tree of biological organization. Leaves, cells. Twigs, tissues, muscle tissue, nervous tissue. Branches, organs, heart, liver, brain. Larger branches, organ systems, circulatory system, nervous system. Trunk, the whole organism. The grammar is biochemistry and biophysics. Signals flow along the tree. A neurotransmitter release at a synapse, leaf level, affects a neuron, cell, which is part of a neural circuit, twig, which is part of a brain region, branch, which governs the behavior of the whole animal, trunk. The tree structure is why medicine can specialize. A cardiologist focuses on a branch, the circulatory system, trusting that its internal grammar can be understood somewhat independently. A far lantern from cosmology, the cosmic web. The large-scale structure of the universe is a gargantuan hierarchical parse tree of matter distribution. Leaves, dark matter particles and galaxies. Twigs, galaxy halos and small groups. Branches, galaxy clusters and filaments. The trunk, the entire cosmic web, with great walls and vast voids. This tree wasn't drawn by an architect. It grew via gravitational dynamics, a phi grammar of space-time curvature. The tree structure is revealed through statistical analysis of galaxy surveys. The flow of matter, accretion along filaments into clusters, follows the branches of this cosmic tree. Its properties test models of the fundamental phi dynamics of the early universe. From corporate charts to bodily organization to the cosmos itself, a unifying principle. Complex systems are not amorphous soups. They are grammatically structured into nested, self-similar hierarchies. The parse tree is the data structure of reality. What then is the specific language role of a hierarchical parse tree? It is the syntactic diagram of a complex sentence. It is the graphical representation that shows the grammatical structure of a given phi configuration. If a sentence is, "The quick brown fox jumps over the lazy dog," the parse tree diagrams how "the" modifies fox, how quick and brown combine, how fox jumps is a noun phrase plus a verb phrase, and so on. The hierarchical parse tree for storm does the same. It shows how a local pressure drop, wind vectors, and humidity values combine into a convection cell, how cells combine into a storm front, and how fronts combine into the entire weather system. It is the tool for disambiguating and understanding the holistic message. The core question this part asks about phi is, given a specific complex configuration of the phi field, what is its natural hierarchical decomposition into coherent substructures across scales? And what does this tree reveal about the flow of constraints and information within the system? We are moving from analyzing general rules to analyzing specific complex instances. What does this parse tree framework do for our understanding? It provides a systematic method for complexity reduction, breaking down overwhelming data into manageable, meaningful modules. It reveals the functional architecture of a system, which parts work together closely and which are more independent. It guides prediction and control by showing where interventions will have localized versus global effects. It connects dynamics across scales, showing how micro-events integrate into macro behavior. Now, stability and breakdown. The hierarchical parse tree representation is a stable and extremely useful framework for systems that exhibit modularity and scale separation. It holds beautifully for systems with clear, nested levels of organization, organisms, engineered systems, large-scale structure. It breaks down or becomes fuzzy in systems that are highly integrated or self-similar without clear modular levels. In a fully turbulent fluid, for example, eddies exist at all scales in a continuous cascade, making it hard to define distinct twigs and branches. The tree becomes more of a continuum, a bush. Also, in systems with strong long-range correlations or small world networks, like some social networks or neural networks, interactions can jump across tree branches, violating the clean tree structure. In such cases, the parse tree must be supplemented with crosslinks or replaced with a more general network representation. This brings us to our empirical commitment, falsifiability. The claim that complex physical systems admit a meaningful hierarchical parse tree based on phi dynamics is a testable hypothesis about data structure. The central claim. For a well-defined complex system, for example, a developing organism, a turbulent flow, the cosmic web, analysis of high-resolution phi data, for example, gene expression maps, velocity fields, galaxy positions, using multi-scale decomposition techniques like wavelets, clustering algorithms, or correlation functions, should reveal a coherent hierarchical clustering. This means small-scale features should group into intermediate-scale structures, which in turn group into larger-scale structures, with most of the statistical dependency captured within these nested groups. The resulting tree should align with independently known functional or dynamical units. Concrete measurement scene. Parsing a tropical cyclone from satellite data. We take a satellite dataset of a mature hurricane over the ocean. The data is a time series of images capturing cloud top temperature, water vapor, and wind vectors, all proxies for the underlying atmospheric phi field. We apply a multi-scale decomposition algorithm, like a wavelet transform or a persistent homology analysis, to the cloud structure field. This algorithm identifies coherent regions at different spatial scales. The pass condition, validation. The algorithm outputs a clear hierarchical tree. At the finest scale, leaves, it identifies small, intense convective cells, thunderstorms. These cells are clustered into several groups, twigs, that correspond to the hurricane's spiral rain bands. These rainband clusters are themselves all linked to a dominant central cluster, the branch, that corresponds to the eye wall surrounding the calm eye. The entire set of clusters connects to a single root node, the hurricane as a whole. Furthermore, when we track wind vectors, we find that the flow is highly coherent within each rainband, twig, and organized into the larger rotational flow of the eye wall, branch. The derived tree structure matches the meteorological understanding of a hurricane's anatomy. It is not arbitrary. It reflects the dynamical grammar of rotating moist convection. The fail condition, falsification. The multiscale analysis fails to find any stable hierarchical clustering. The identified structures at different scales are uncorrelated or randomly arranged. Small convective cells show no tendency to group into rainbands. The large-scale rotation is not associated with any coherent aggregation of smaller features. The data appears as scale-free noise without nested organization. This would mean that, for this system, the hurricane is not a grammatically structured entity in the phi field in the way we thought. It would be a mere statistical fluctuation without internal hierarchical syntax, challenging our fundamental understanding of storm dynamics. If such a result held for all complex systems in a domain, the very concept of hierarchical parse trees as a universal descriptive tool would be falsified. This falsifiability ensures that our elegant, holistic framework remains rooted in the discernible structure of data. Let's cultivate a practical recognition skill. You can train your mind to see parse trees in any complex system where you can identify parts within parts, and where the interactions within a part are stronger or more frequent than interactions between parts at the same level. Look at a well-organized essay or book. The parse tree is the outline. Letters form words, leaves. Words form sentences, twigs. Sentences form paragraphs, branches. Paragraphs form sections, larger branches. And sections form chapters and the book, the trunk. The argument flows along this tree. Observe a river system on a map. The smallest tributaries are leaves. They feed into streams, Twigs. Streams feed into rivers, branches. Rivers join to form a major river, the trunk flowing to the sea. The water, and anything carried in it, follows the tree structure. Consider a supply chain for a product. Raw materials from various mines, farms, leaves go to processing plants, twigs. Processed materials go to component manufacturers, branches. Components assemble at a factory, a major branch, into the final product, which then goes through a distribution network, another branch tree. The flow of goods is parsed by this logistical tree. Whenever you see a natural or design system that can be broken down into levels of containment or membership, where higher levels coordinate lower levels, you are perceiving a hierarchical parse tree. You are seeing nested grammar. We must connect this crowning insight directly to our Holophase journey. In the previous part, renormalization gave us the procedure for moving between scales. Here, the parse tree is the static picture of all scales at once. It is the spatial instantiation of the renormalization flow. A branch is like a fixed point of a local coarse graining process. The entire tree is the Holophase field's answer to the question, what is the grammatical structure of this specific story? We haven't added new substances. We've simply provided the diagrammatic syntax for reading complex phi sentences. One field, phi, plus its derivatives, plus the principles of hierarchy, yields not just layers, but a connected, arboreal architecture of meaning. If you want to see the full mathematical derivations and exact equations behind this idea, the formalisms of multiscale analysis, wavelet transforms, hierarchical clustering, and their connection to phi-based dynamics, you can search for Holophase on Zenodo. There you will find the scientific papers that this audio journey is built on. Let us pause here at the summit of Book 9.6 and behold the view. We have completed our climb through hierarchical generation. We now see reality as a vast forest of parse trees, each a nested grammatical structure growing from the soil of the fundamental phi field. From quantum whispers to cosmic paragraphs, every story the universe tells is written in this arboreal form. This is a profound consolidation of our understanding. Our journey in Episode 9, however, is not complete. We have learned how the grammar generates stories and how those stories are structured. But there is one final, dizzying twist. What happens when a story generated by the grammar, a parse tree as complex as a brain, turns its attention back upon the grammar itself? What happens when the universe's narrative produces a sub-narrative that attempts to read the entire script? This is the frontier of self-reference, the puzzle of measurement and consciousness. In the next book, Book 9.7, Self-Reference and Closure, we will step onto this fascinating and essential ground, exploring how the Holophase language can consistently describe itself. Before we end, the mandatory zoom out to hold our scope. Hierarchical parse trees, for all their descriptive power, are still just patterns in phi and its coarse-grained descendants. The leaves, twigs, and branches are all configurations of the field. The nesting is a relationship between these configurations, defined by the grammar of interaction and coarse graining. We have added no new substances. One field, phi, plus its infinite tower of derivative questions, plus the principles of scale, emergence, renormalization, and now syntactic parsing. From this, the entire ordered, complex, intelligible architecture of the world is built and can be read. As we conclude, hold the image of the ancient oak. Its roots are in the dark earth of the fundamental phi. Its trunk is the stability of macroscopic law. Its branches are the domains of chemistry, biology, geology. Its twigs are storms and organisms and communities. Its leaves are individual events, quantum collisions, moments of experience. And we are somewhere on that tree, a complex branch capable of tracing our connection down to the roots and out to the farthest leaves. We have learned not just that the universe is a language, but that it is a language whose stories are inherently tree-like, nested, parsed, and profoundly structured. To understand anything complex is to learn to see its tree. Salam, and peace be upon you.